do their work in the evenings so that this office can function by day. So that's our only unusual circumstance tonight. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. And the first thing we do is we stand, we recite the Pledge of Allegiance, then we remain standing for a moment of silent prayer or meditation on your own, and then we will get back to the agenda for the roll call forward. Pledge of Allegiance, the flag of this morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the roll call of the board members. I'm Larry Moore, and I'm the president.
I'm Greg Trehune, the vice president.
Virginia Perry, treasurer.
Larry Ellis, sergeant of numbers.
Okay, so all board members are present.
Hey, let's hold it down.
It's going to be one of those nights now, don't worry about it. Our next item is the minutes of the previous meeting, and Dave got those out to us a couple days ago, so hopefully everybody had a chance to look those over. It was a special meeting on, I believe it was July 26th, 27th, 26th, 27th. Anyway, he got those minutes out to us, and hopefully you read them. And if there is no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Greg, second by Virginia, to approve the minutes as presented. Any comments before we take a vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous on the last minutes. And then we have in front of us the treasurer's report, which of course we've had some activity going on, so Virginia's put this together for us, and she's going to go over it.
Okay. Last meeting, we had a balance in the checking account, $176.75, and in the savings, $71.53. And our income from old settlers, we had donations of $31. Plus this evening, we have an additional $100 donation, so that will be changed to $131. We sold constitutions of $12, and then we took out of the savings account the cost of the iPad, which was $192.58. So our checking account balance as of this evening is $412.33. Savings account from our last meeting, like I said, was $71.53. We had expenses for beginning cash of $50, which are kind of savings. Then we put back in after the raffle was over. The income from the sale of the tickets for the raffle was $305, plus we put the $50 cash back in the savings account. That's where it came from. And then we took out for the iPads out of the savings account, put in the checking account, the $192.58. So that leaves a balance savings account as of this evening of $183.85, or a total of both accounts $596.28. The total expenses for the wholesalers that we paid $50 for the state license fee, $75 for booth rental, and the iPads were $192.58, or a total of $317.58. The income was $305. We sold the raffle tickets. The Constitution was $12, and we had $31 donations plus an additional $100 this evening, or $131. So that makes our profit, or net profit, $130.42. Then we look at some, we sold 69 tickets. 8 of those were sold will apply for $20. That's where 305 comes from. We have 112 constitutions left. And I think I covered the rest of it, but I have a breakdown. I have extra copies if anybody would like to have a copy of the breakdown and of the treasurer's report. You see, I have that available.
So as you can see, this is a very comprehensive report of our activity at Old Settlers, all we did, and all we tried to do to raise some funds and participate in the whole event. So it's a detailed report, and therefore, if we have any questions or discussion on the report, we should do that way. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, Larry moved, Greg seconded to approve the treasurer's report. Comments before vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Once again, unanimous on the treasurer's report. And I might say, Virginia, thank you. That's a very good job for some complicated shuffling of what had to go on for us to participate. We did not do as well as we did last year, but we did come out. That's important. With that, we move to old business. That was our fundraising. We did, like I say, we didn't make as much as we did last time. Are there other things we can or need to do to keep ourselves afloat financially?
I think we should do Applebee's as often as possible.
We can do that.
Yeah,
I think last time we raised $51.
yeah, yeah. I can set that up. I can do that.
Another Applebee's, and we could push it on that internet list that you have, and we can tell people, because what we can't do is sit outside and keep on people as they go in and have to have them trans. I learned that the hard way. So
I think we ought to explain the Applebee's things to the audience.
you can get a coupon. You have to have a payment in advance. And when you go in there, you eat at regular prices. And when you pay your bill, you have in that paper, and I believe it's 15% gets designated to come to us as a donation. And there would be a lot more of that if we had more people just brought those papers in with them on the designated day. But it's hard to get the word out, and it's hard to get people to remember, take this paper with you when you go to Applebee's. But maybe we can do a little better with that and generate a little bit more. Because the last time we made $51, and I don't think we had a lot of people participate. We had some.
Well, we have a lot of the regulars.
Yeah, and all of us go. But we can get that word out a little bit more and get that paper out, make sure people bring it. We can come up with that. I think that's a good idea.
Actually, I think if you have it on your phone, that they will accept it if you have it on your cell phone and show it to them, that they'll be your skin.
There you go. Technology wins in the end. We can do this. Any other ideas on fundraising? Okay, I'll give you one. I'll throw this out. I think that when we raffle off these tablets, that we're hitting an audience that's kind of limited in their interest. They're there at the festival and not too interested in computers per se. And so there's a limited audience for that. And I also think, I've moved through this, I can't explain it to them. Really, the only one that can explain it to them in detail is Greg, which is why he's always the top salesman on those by far. And so I think it's a fairly limited audience. And so what I'm going to suggest is, before we get into this next year, make it automatic. I think maybe we ought to look around. Maybe raffle off some $50 gift certificates to Applebee's, One Charlie's, places like that. I think people might cough up a little more interest little more money to win a $50 gift certificate. That's just an idea, not even my own, blame my wife. But it's an idea that might work, and so I think we need to think about that. Any other ideas?
Building professional travels.
Community taxpayer travel off of the big gun, why not?
I think we get a whole lot of scrutiny on that, wouldn't we? Have you done a 50-50?
50-50?
So these are things that to buy fries or anything else. These are things to think about before we get very far into next year. Just a thought, and not saying we can't do the tablets, iPads again.
Yeah, we,
I don't know enough to do a good sales job or something.
I was surprised when, how many people had one already. So that, it's either they don't know anything about it and didn't see that they would ever have to use one, or we already had one. So I think there are more people out there with it than I think in the past. So I personally like the 50-50. Those are simple and probably charge price.
And see, that's something. So in other words, alternatives, things to think about before we lock in automatically to renew that. For next. Anything else on fundraising?
I assume we would still have to give up our first child for the being.
I'm not sure. I think we'll go about the 50-50. First one child and everything.
That was quite an ordeal.
Oh, it was every time I send something in, they come back, now we need this, in addition, we need this, but all of our identifying information, our driver's license number, everything, we wanted all of that. And we provided it, but they had not asked for that in the past, so that was good.
Moving that raffle off the tongue.
Well, the fact of the matter is we did it to the letter as we're supposed to, and I'm not sure how many others that did such things were even involved in going through reporting. That's not our business, but if we're going to do it, we need to do it right. So that's why, and thank goodness again for Virginia navigating all of that for us during the state, because it gets pretty complex. Other ideas? If not, we move on. The next item on our agenda under old business is the Madison Township discussion. We opened this up when we met in July 27th. We opened this up and started talking, and then said we talked about it again tonight. So here we are. Larry, you want to begin? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not? First thing I want to start with is the condition of the apparatus at Madison Township. We have some apparatus issues. We have currently 4 of our apparatus that are out of commission. We have our new ambulance, which has been wrecked. We checked on that today. We're going to have another 2 weeks for additional part. We have engine 31 that is out for repairs. It's been gone for over a month now. We've got engine 32 out for repairs. It's been gone approximately a week now. And we have our tanker out, which has been out for about 2 weeks. So when it comes to apparatus, we've got just a little bit enough apparatus to hold on for them. We still have the ladder truck and the heavy rescue and the brush truck. So keep your fingers crossed that we don't have anything major burned down or some sort of emergency.
The old engine that they tried to sell.
Correct. The engine engine 33, the backup engine that was mentioned to sell that we talked about selling, has been pressed back into service now for the third time since we talked to them. So it's a good thing we hung on to engine 33. Our problem now is staffing also. Station 31 was actually closed today because there wasn't enough staff. Station 32 was closed in June. Station 31 was also closed at one point this month. 32 was also closed again at one point this month. So we're having a difficult time staffing our stations. The problem we have though is in our funding for our payroll, if it continues at the current rate, we'll be $90,000 short at the end of the year. Problem is they've used overtime in excess. For example, I've got June's financial statement, and if I look at June's financial statement, I have a part-time person in June who was paid in excess of $9,000 due to all the overtime. I'll have a firefighter who was paid over $7,400 in the month of June due to excessive overtime. Another good example of this is this past weekend, I personally spoke to a firefighter, part-time firefighter was called in, and he was doing back-to-backs and did 60 hours over the weekend. Well, first off, that's illegal. There has to be 48 hours, and then there has to be a break. You have to give a 12-hour break in between. So that, first off, is illegal. Second of all, 60 hours of a part-time individual, you're asking a lot of an individual. He has another full-time job. The other part of that equation is the fire chief, quote unquote, has gone to the lawyer and has worked it out so that the part-time people can actually be paid overtime. So, if we look at our budget and we look at what we're paying, and I'll give you an example. Through the first 4 months in wages, we had paid out $398,830. In the month of June alone, we paid out almost $135,000. So there's an issue, and what's going to happen is the fire department's going to come back towards the end of the year, and they're going to want an additional appropriation because they're not staffing the stations properly. We have lost a couple of good firefighters to other stations, and that's going to happen. We can't pay the same wages as some of the others. That's going to happen. But I don't see any effort on the part of the administration to get new firefighters in. We're not willing to make any concessions. We're not willing to bend. We're not willing to compromise and get people in. For example, our full-time firefighters work 24-hour shifts. You have an A, B, and C shift, and they rotate. If you were to get a firefighter from another fire station who is working 24 hours also, they're not so eager to work another 24-hour shift. Whereas if we would offer a 12-hour shift or an 8-hour shift, we could get other firefighters from other departments to come in and supplement their income by working for us part-time on that basis, but not on a 24-hour basis. Most of them are not going to do that. So we have a definite staffing issue that needs to be addressed. We have a issue, I don't know that it's really an issue so much, but we have a concrete company that is going to do concrete work at Station 31. The plan was for the concrete work to start yesterday and to be finished today. That date has been now pushed back to Labor Day weekend. In doing some due diligence and in doing some research, I also had someone else do some research for me, I appreciate that. I found out that this concrete company is actually operated out of Heartland Crossing. I don't know if any of you have ever seen any backhoes or concrete trucks in Heartland Crossing. Personally, I haven't. I find that a little odd. Also did some investigating, found out that his annual sales is approximately $127,000 a year. He's not doing a whole lot of work. This concrete is not cheap. If you compare the $45,000 that we're going to spend with it versus that $127,000, our one project is about a third of what it'll do all year. And I looked at his growth chart, First several years, he's been in business approximately 5 years. First several years, no growth. 2021, his growth went up 157 or 150%, but in 2022, it is at zero growth again. So we're dealing with, I don't want to disparage the guy. He's probably doing a great job. I saw his Facebook ad and all the concrete work they did looks great and so forth. But we're now faced with a dilemma. And the reason I believe that the date got pushed back is because he is now wanting half the money up front before he starts the job. One, that's illegal because the township cannot pay money unless services are already rendered. It also tells me he's operating on a shoestring, which that's going to happen from time to time. But if you're not able to fulfill the contract the way it's supposed to be fulfilled, then you are disqualified. And we need to turn the page and move on. We already have one issue with Haynes Roofing that, from what I understand, now has been turned over to the lawyer because we're not getting satisfaction out of that proposition. We paid them $150,000. We still don't have all the material. Here we are 9 months down the road. So now what we're going to get to do, fellow residents, is we're going to get to pay a lawyer to try and straighten out this mess. And I find that very disturbing. I find it unrealistic or uncaring for our administration to put that cost on the taxpayers when if they had done the process properly to start with, we wouldn't be where we're at today. I don't know about you, but $150,000 is a lot of money to cough up. So if we can't get satisfaction, then somebody's got to make up that $150,000 so we can get the roofs done. I don't want to make up the difference, quite frankly. So we've got that issue. We've also got another issue that I'm currently working on. I haven't got all the facts and figures in yet on, and I'm not at liberty to release it yet. But when it does come out, I'll let you know what it is. But it involves an insurance claim as well. So we also have our backup ambulance that we received a check for $5,400 sum because it was sideswiped, and as of yet that was in October, and as of yet that vehicle has not been repaired. So there's a lot of moving parts going on. Our administration, the part-time fire chief, I have to call him a fire chief. From what I understand right now, is currently in Florida for 2 weeks. Plans on moving to Florida and commuting back and forth every 2 weeks. Ain't gonna happen. Not if I have anything to say about it. So there's a lot of moving parts going on. Kristen was in a subdivision recently, and you saw something that I find very disturbing. Can you share what you saw?
I was out Saturday afternoon knocking doors, and I was in around 11 acres, which butts up against Highways Corner. And I saw ladder 32, the new ladder truck, going down a dead-end road in Highways Corner. Lights and sirens, smashing the horn as much as they could, bum, 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 bum. And driving a little bit too fast for a dead-end road, if you ask me. There's also a road where former firefighter and current Madison Township firefighter live. So it was kind of absurd to be showboating out like that and to be wasting taxpayer dollars, fuel that costs $4 a gallon just to drive by your house and home. It might have been fun for the kids, and it probably got a good laugh out of the neighbors, but it wasn't responsible.
Speaking of responsible, recently there was a posting on Facebook as well, and some other sites, social media, that had 2 pictures of one of our deadly fire chiefs and one of our elected board members, and it was less than appropriate. So I feel like that ought to be addressed as well. There are a lot of things going on. In June, out of the Q fund, we finally paid off the dive gear at $32,000 while we're still waiting for power lift for our ambulances. I'm at a loss. And I think it's time that somehow we made the taxpayers aware of all this stuff that's going on. The firefighters, and I go in and I talk to them on a regular basis, some of them are so demoralized that they will call in so that they don't have to face the administration. Now, that's pitiful. That is downright pitiful. Good news is, new kitchen cabinets are in 31, but the concrete, we'll see how that plays out. And the roofing, obviously, we'll have to see how that plays out. I think it's time that we did look for some firefighters in all reality, because we are short-staffed. We're closing stations because we're short-staffed, and we would be doing something different.
Larry, you have brought up plethora of things about Madison Township, and so here's my question to move the discussion on. What do we as the Community Taxpayers Association address? What do we do about it?
I think go ahead.
I would like to add a few more details before we get into that particular discussion. I'm especially fired up over the roof thing that Larry mentioned. And I would like to add some details to that. This time last year, there was supposedly some storm damage caused by hail or some storm activity to the township office and the fire department, or the fire station, and the classrooms behind it. The insurance was called, and they did pony up a check, but the storm damage was in August. And the check was issued on December the 13th.
Positive on 13th, issue number.
Okay. But the thing is that Haynes Roofing was cut a check right after that, almost immediately after that. I think it was the 14th.
Yes.
Okay. Haynes Roofing was cut a check of $150,000. Now we got the insurance check was for $250,000, and we turned over a check of $150,000. Now I don't know why we would make a partial payment. First off, we're not supposed to pay anything. The township is not supposed to pay until services have been fully rendered. And not a thing had been done on the 14th when we actually cut the check to Haynes Roofing. Another thing that bothers me about this is that Haynes Roofing was already due to be dissolved, and there was a posting on the Secretary of State website saying that it was due to be dissolved as of October the 3rd. Like 60 days before we even cut the check. So we had hired a company that was being dissolved. Now that was not right at all. Now the thing is, there's several things wrong, not other than what I've already mentioned. For instance, the board's supposed to be notified in financial issues and supposed to be involved in the decisions on something like this. They were not notified at all. They deposited the check on the 13th, they cut another check on the 14th, and the contract was awarded to Haynes Roofing without the board being involved in that discussion. That, I believe, is totally wrong. Another thing is that Indiana Code 522.83 says that purchases and contracts that amount to between $50,000 and $150,000, there must be 3 bids. There was no 3 bids. They didn't do 3 bids. The township trustee is not following proper procedures or protocol. And now it appears that we've lost this $150,000 because a year has gone by and not a lick of work has been done.
Well, not only lost $150,000, but now we're losing legal fees. We're also losing legal fees now that we have the lawyer involved.
Right.
Now, there is good news in Madison Township. Believe it or not, there's some good news. Let me just give you a couple things here. As of January 1st, let's put it that way. As of January 1st, there will be some good news. We're going to start what we call some initiatives, some community initiatives. One of those is that we're going to be taking care of, we have 7, I believe, it's either 5 or 7 graves, cemeteries that the township is responsible for. We're supposed to do the upkeep, the mowing, and so forth. I went by Centenary Road Cemetery, which is behind the old Methodist church, which is now a house. It is overgrown. Mount Olive on Hadley Road is overgrown. The one on Man Road that you can see, I really can see, it's all nice and pretty. Got to make you just scratch your head. We already had a resident who volunteered to mow the Centenary Road Cemetery. And he and his son did do that, but it hasn't been mowed since. We don't expect them to go out and mow it every week. We didn't expect them to mow it that time. We pay somebody to mow those cemeteries. So our initiative, one of our initiatives is going to be, we're going to be decorating the veterans' graves in those cemeteries. The one at Centenary Road is still an active cemetery. People are still being buried at the Centenary Road Cemetery. Matter of fact, last time I was out there, I saw a tombstone from 2019 history. Our initiative is to go out and get volunteers and to upright the tombstones and get the cemeteries back in the proper order. And what we want to do with the bigger cemeteries is do one cemetery a year so that we make sure we get those cemeteries the way they're supposed to be. We also have asked 2 veterans, one sitting here, if they will go and plot these cemeteries, find out where the veterans' graves are, and mark them, and then when the proper holidays come, that they will go out and put flags on those grave sites. And I think that is a great initiative for our community because there are still people that visit those cemeteries. And they still have relatives out there, obviously. So we need to take care of those sites. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So that's one of our initiatives. Another initiative we have is we're going to try, I've already talked to County Sheriff Rich Myers, and we have the facilities that we're going to try to get an office put in Station 32 where the Sheriff's Department can come in, they can park their vehicle there, they can use the office, they can use a computer, and we'll have a Sheriff's presence in the area. So that, a lot of people are concerned that we don't have a police department, so those sort of things, but we want to have some sort of presence. It may not be the kind of presence we want as far as how large and so forth, but at least we can start with that and go forward. Another thing that we're working on right now, I have a lady working on, sometimes when we get calls into for assistance, at this point, the investigator is trying to do some counseling. That's not her job, that's not what she's trained to do, and I'm afraid what's going to happen is we're going to end up with some sort of legal trouble if we're not careful. So what we decided to do instead is take our website and list all the county and state services that are provided, list their phone numbers and their web addresses, and that way we can point them to the proper services that they need, whether it's suicide prevention or whatever the case may be. So that's another initiative we're going to be taking on. The other thing we're going to be doing, one of the other things we're going to do is we're going to have 3 community events throughout the year. Right now what we have is one, which is the fireworks. Our plan is to make that bigger, incorporate a car show into it, incorporate some of the local school bands into it, make it family friendly, even have a family friendly concert, if you will, make it an all-day event. We're also going to have an event in the fall that will be strictly for the community. It's all it's for the community. In the spring, we'll have one to raise money for the firefighters, for the fire departments. We'll have at least 3 community events throughout the year. We're going to have a theme for every year. Every year we'll have a theme. This year it's going to be turning the page. We're going to turn the page on what's been going on and move into a brighter future. Another one, and these are just, and one is honor and commitment for the next year. And then in 2025, we're going to have a 70 years of service theme because 70 years will have passed since our first fire department was established. So we're going to have a 70-year celebration all year long. What we're hoping to do is actually get an old fire truck that is similar to one of the first ones we had, just for display purposes. Don't know if we can pull it off, but we're certainly going to give it our best try. And then we're going to, in the last year of the term, it's going to be looking back, but moving forward. So we've got some things planned. We've got some initiatives planned. We're going to get our fire department to the point where it's doing what it's supposed to do. And the EMS is doing what it's supposed to do. And it's functioning instead of being dysfunctional. Right now, I'll be honest with you, it's dysfunctional. And we've got to fix it.
So, what we've done is we've listed a plethora of concerns, plethora of plus concerns on what's going on out there. And then we capped it off by saying we're also trying hard to do some good things. So what I need to bring this back to is, where did the community taxpayers enter into this? What would you ask? What would you hold? Argue?
Okay, we do have several issues that are going on currently that I would say are serious problems. Now, I want the community taxpayers to get involved, possibly write a letter, maybe a letter to the editor or something. But my worry is we have a change of administration coming up in a few months. I want it to be clear that the problems exist now and are caused by a lack of leadership by the current administration. Otherwise, it can carry over to the new administration as their problems. And I think that we need to shine the light of day. We need to expose this to the sunshine so that it is clear to the public whose problem this really is, who's caused it, who's responsible for it. Otherwise, I think they can duck it entirely.
Action ideas, what shall we do?
I think we need to, the residents need to flood the website. They need to flood the office with phone calls. They need to flood it with some specifics as to what's going on. Not just, we're sick and tired of what's going on, but some specifics. Some of the things that we've mentioned tonight that are going on, that are occurring. We've got a ladder truck that goes to McDonald's every third shift because this one firefighter has to have McDonald's on his shift, and then they go back in the afternoon to Myers or wherever. That's a specific. We do need a change of administration, but we've got to flood them with information. We've got to be upset. We've got to show our concern that we don't like the way this is going. It can't continue this way. We only have 4 months left. A lot of damage can be done in 4 months.
How do we tempt the public to do that? I mean, the public
I wholeheartedly agree. The newspaper is, forget the newspaper. It's not worth what it used to be several years ago. I don't know. That's a question that I've been struggling with. I've also been struggling with how do we fix these issues.
Where does our group enter in? How do we know?
Maybe as a watchdog group for the community, you guys can get a hold, you could contact the SBOA. I mean, there are plenty of us individuals that have reached out about these concerns, but maybe if they see that that concern is from a wider group of people, and especially a group of watches, elected officials for these types of behaviors.
They see it as the same 5 or 6 people every meeting, raising hell. And it's not the same. It's the same people there, just because everybody else is scared to go out and get their hands dirty.
I am regularly asked, will you be at the next meeting? Will you record them? I'm not going to go. I don't want to be there. You know, but they are interested in what happened at the last meeting, what's going on with the group. Questions that I can't answer because I haven't had a meeting since June.
TV stations do more good than anything.
That's exactly right.
I think you hit on a very good point, though, Kristen. I think a lot of the residents should be calling the SBLA, the State Board of Accounts, and the GGLF, getting a hold of the state, the county, and burning their funds. Because while we can't, per se, do anything, they can do things.
There's only one legal course of action I can see that was just passed into law this year that I think would not be beneficial to anybody in Madison Township to try to pursue. There's no time to pursue the removal of the trustee and get a new one promised in to fix these issues. These issues are done for and they're going to be left to the new administration in January to handle it, certainly. So I think our hands are tied other than making sure the accountability happens at the ballot box. I don't know if there's anything we can do legally other than ask the SBOA to step in and remind the trustee what his job is.
We as a group, county taxpayers, we'd like to hear our county and express our concerns on the issues that's going on in Madison.
I've written to Kara Kenny. You've written to Kara Kenny?
Yes.
Several of us have already written to Kara Kenny. Her plate is full.
But I don't know if it makes any difference as a group, as a watchdog group, as she has pointed out. It would make a difference.
The more people that put pressure on somebody, the more results you're going to get.
So we should write a letter to Kara Kenny.
Yeah, as a group.
As residents in general, it's Era and Star and Global Paper, guys, so the rule has changed about us. In politics, he's in Washington, Madison Township, he could be interested in a press release from you guys. There are lots of press that would be very interested to hear from about Madison Township right now.
So, tell me with this lawyer that you hired, who did the hiring? You?
This is a lawyer that is retained by the township. So he's hired by the trustee. How convenient.
To be fair, there's maybe 3 law firms in the state of Indiana that handle township law, and the law firm that we have contracted is incredibly reputable. Great lawyers work there. However, we don't have a great trustee giving all of our lawyers that can be perfect.
A lawyer is a lawyer, and their job is to make money. Either that or they gotta go sell cement someplace.
You had to throw that out there.
Yeah. So what I would suggest, and again, I agree with Virginia, I'm not sure if this group can do something. I think what you want to do, because you got 4 months left, and the trustee is just sitting there laughing at you. So what I would do is call a public meeting, advertise it as much as you can, have it in a place, a neutral place, not even in the township, and then decide to collectively buy a lawyer who doesn't have to know anything about township government. He's a good lawyer, he can bullshit about anything, and sue these people to get that money back. I want that $150,000 back.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the whole reason I have not pursued. There's a couple of reasons I haven't pursued it, but here's one reason I haven't pursued it. The new law that came out in July says that the trustee has to have done something basically illegal.
How do you know he has to?
Well, here's the problem. I can assume a lot of things. I can make a lot of noise about what I assume. But do I have the evidence and do I have the paperwork and the documentation to prove that anything illegal has occurred?
Awful.
State police, white collar crime division.
Huh?
State police, white collar crime division.
That's right.
Be really happy. Check with that $150,000.
Well, the Morgan County Sheriff's Department isn't interested, I can tell you that.
Well, nobody in Morgan County, because you're a goddamn monopoly, is going to do anything. We've been down that road before. So I think Rick's right. It's in the Indiana State Police. Call it.
There's several things that trustee did that were inappropriate. I don't know if they cross over to the being illegal, but the thing is that he did violate the Indiana code when he did not get free bids. And he did violate the recommendation enlisted in the township manual, saying that he was supposed to involve the board in all issues involving the township, especially financial issues.
See, some of it will never touch it.
Well,
I have to worry about the sign.
I just opened a can of worms. All I did was say, what can we do? No can of worms here.
We're working on it.
I'm just trying to move us to a direction where we can do something to assist this group.
I don't know that this group, and I wouldn't be in favor of this group getting involved over and above writing those letters. And I would remind all of you that the lady from Channel 6 is not the only investigative reporter. They have 5 TV stations in Indianapolis. They all presume to have an investigative
Yeah,
reporter.
we do.
So I would get a hold of
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
and see who
Yes.
wants the action. But in the meantime, I would go to Indiana State Police, because that's the only place you're going to find someone who's not protected. That's the problem with this county, is they're protecting each other. So,
I'm not hurt.
well, I'm glad you're there. There are some good people in this county, in public office, but there are some others that look the other way.
Well, I like that idea.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know that the public, I mean, I thought this couple here, this is their second time back here for a meeting, because I don't know how you got interested, but I can see you taking notes. That's
I
great.
don't want to use this term, but she's an old one. She's tenacious. She's hold of something she don't let go, so.
Well, then she's somebody you want to invite to a meeting. Yeah, and we have
Yes, it is.
the clubhouse, Hartman Crossing Clubhouse. It's $100 to rent the damn thing. I'll pay the $100 to rent. You can get people there. Hold this meeting. And it would be fun because it would be in the trustee's backyard.
I don't think it holds up people. Last time we had a big meeting like that, we couldn't go to the fire station. So here's a question I have, getting back to where we're trying to go. Do you think it would be better if the Community Taxpayer Association contacted the investigative reporters rather than the residents?
I do. That was my
idea.
suggestion.
That's what I was something for it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this group got formed because of problems in the past with the Madison Township. I've lived here 20 plus years, and it seems like for 20 plus years, we've had problems with Madison Township.
Well, that was in 2008. I remember that well.
But, we're at a point now where, we're going to hopefully have some new people that, because there's 3 of them in the room here. And let me give you a warning. If you don't get this thing straightened out, I'm going to come after you. But in the meantime, I don't want that SOP to get off the hook. So whatever we got to do to put him on the hook, I'm all for it. And I'm going to put up some of my own money. This hiring damn lawyer to sue his ass. Let's do it. And going after this dude that does a cement job. I'll give him a job. His cement truck right there. I've got a hole in my backyard.
Spirited discussion. Spirited discussion is fine. I'll just point out we are being recorded back here, so be mindful of what you say and how you say it.
You got a comment?
Yeah, I have a comment. They're all moving in January. That's right. It's moving out of the area.
They already got the traffic to go in there.
That's
why we need to start the action now.
The problem is we have 4 months yet, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen in 4 months. For example, additional appropriations. They can run on football field. You may not have, and need a firefighter by the January 1st. Because firefighters are extremely, I'm going to use the word extremely again, extremely demoralized. They have no leadership.
Larry's got the details. Larry has the details.
On what?
Here's an interesting thing. You got all this problem with the fire department and these guys not wanting to work or leaving or something. Just wait till the first fire comes along and the guy's house burns down. And the insurance company realizes that he ain't got no fire department.
But here, we did one last week. There was a fire in Mooresville. We were called, but we did not participate because we did not have the personnel. Same day, we get a call. We're dispatched to a fire in Barbersville, 10,000 square foot house. We cannot participate because we don't have the help. That same fire, they call us again because they're desperate for help. Every tanker in the county, in Johnson County, was at that fire. Except Madison Township, because we didn't have. Station 31, to give you an example, all you had was one firefighter and a part-time paramedic, and she is not a firefighter. Now, what if that was one of our homes?
Well, that's the point. You think an insurance company is going to pay your claim because you haven't got a damn fire department?
Well, I've been talking pretty regularly with the insurance companies.
Well, I was in the insurance business. I can tell you.
They're gonna raise hell.
But we're just gonna read lower than the Madison Township.
They're gonna raise hell, they're using that ladder as an engine when it's only carrying 300 gallons of water. It's a half a mile to a hydrant from my house. That's the first piece in.
Well, I
I'm
got news for
over
you.
shooting, I'm telling you.
I got news for you. They're not going to show up at your house. But you've been a thorn in your side for years. And I know they're not coming to my house, so.
Jim's got to say about it.
I've already talked to Med Tech ambulance services since gas station, 67 Root Street, only about the
Okay, so the question is, who wants to contact me? So do you want to write it out to one station for the
Well, what my suggestion was, I will give the names of the investigators from each of the channels and their addresses and give them to Larry. Larry can draft the letters with the information from Greg and Larry, and put the copy in the letter and send it to these, 5 different stations. And let them know that if they want, if they're interested and they want additional information, that they should either contact you or Greg. How's that sound?
You're right. If we're to be involved, there should be one person addressing the 5 investigative reporters or whoever else will want to investigate. And in that letter, which doesn't have to be lengthy, especially since I don't have to command the details that we've gone over for 55 minutes now. What we'd have to do is say, we have these very great concerns, and we invite you to contact Greg or I have to put that information in there, contact them. Does that make sense? Absolutely.
Well, the other thing is, this is being recorded, so this will be on YouTube. Danny, is that correct? So there's your conversation that you can take a look at.
I will tell you this much, in your letter, in our letter, I would put in there, and I've done this with Kara, just as a matter of clarity. I put in my contact with Kara, that I was running for the trustee position in full disclosure. I think in full disclosure, we need to let them know that.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Who's involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
That way we don't have.
You don't want to appear as though it's conflict of interest. Yeah.
I think everybody on the board should be mentioned in the letter, though.
Yeah.
so that they realize that there are, you know, a significant number of people on the board.
And they
It's
don't
not
all live
just
in
one.
Madison Township.
Huh?
And they don't all live in Madison Township, but
Yes.
we're concerned, even though we don't, you know, we're still concerned about what's going on in
We're a
Madison Township
watchdog,
for years.
we're a watchdog group that is concerned about, you know,
Taxpayer money being used.
yeah,
That's the whole point of
that's right.
Well, I think at the same time that you contact the investigative reporters, I think you ought to contact the state investigative agencies you talked about, because they need to know what's going on. And I would hate to think that went around and did one of these reporters.
They don't think that I've been making contact.
Well, should we contact them first or contact them at the same time?
We could do it at the same
Yeah,
time.
we should do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay,
We could do it at the
The
same
first group is.
so we will just CC it, everybody.
Yeah. We could do that.
Plus, I still think you ought to have a public meeting, because, okay, so you tell the TV stations, they may or may not be interested in doing it. And you got the state agencies, and they won't get to it until they get to it. So you're back to square one. I think you have a whole meeting,
Yeah.
public meeting,
About what?
all the stuff that you talked about for the last 50
We
hours.
had those meetings. We've discussed
Well,
this.
if you don't have a meeting, then you're letting these bastards, excuse my French, get away with stuff.
But there's nothing that can be done in a meeting.
Here,
Well, I think the other thing too, based on my experience, especially with Madison Township, a lot of people are intimidated into going, afraid to go into that township for a meeting because of the fireman. Now, I don't know if there's firemen here, my son is a fireman, or he was, but they're intimidated to go to a meeting there. You've seen that, haven't you, Rick?
No, I
And
don't
they
know.
don't.
Yeah, right.
But they tried to.
I know.
I'm intimidated.
Yeah, but now you're telling me that
You are not.
half of them have already left and the other half are so damn mad at what's going on. I mean, they probably bring the rope with them.
Well, I've been told, I don't know law, but I've been told the trustee has to be bonded. And all this money that's
Yeah.
not accounted for will come out of his bond and he'll walk away free.
No,
If we don't,
there's a problem with that.
okay.
Scott McDonald currently only has a $30,000 loan. He is under bond.
Real more reason to
I
call.
have the documentation for
so here's the deal, folks. We got some wild details going on, some random things. Need to be looking. We're not gonna capture those in a letter to 5 investigative reporters to local government offices. We're not gonna capture them. So what we're gonna do, if you agree, draft a letter. By the way, when we draft a letter from this organization, I send it out to everybody, and they have to agree to it before we send it, if they'll respond. And when they do, we'll put that letter out and see what it brings. But in my mind right now, as I'm sitting here, I think it needs to be a generic letter with a lot of concerns that are too great to go into detail, but that the details can be provided by Greg and Larry if they want to contact him, and we think that they should be contacted, and then sign it, community taxpayers, and our organization is on it. Does that sound like a solution? We need to go any further with that. Let me see what you've done there. You made me have to write a letter. But I will, and I'll get these, the board, 5 people to approve, and we'll put that out to the 5 investigative reporters and the State Board of Accounts and the Department of Local Government and Finance. We'll just send the same generic letter to them, say, hey, and here's who you can contact, you got questions.
Send it to the state police too, White Collar Crime Police.
Yes, might as well.
Please do.
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion that Larry drafts a letter and we send that letter to all of Rick,
Would it be smart to keep him out of it since he's still running for office?
He has all the information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
No, that's a good question, because-
He's too deep in it now.
If I'm a cynical ex-reporter, first thing I'm gonna figure out is this guy's running. He's got competition.
I'm going to, so you talk to me, I don't care.
Yeah, but I don't care about the Ford as much because it's four of you running. But I care about the trustee because who are we complaining about the trustee? So now he's the next guy up, but he also has somebody running against him. And that guy hasn't got a chance of winning. He's a Democrat. Nevertheless, if I'm a cynical reporter, why can't I be thinking this guy's trying to make sure he gets elected?
That's what I can say about.
If he was running against the incumbent, I think that would be a concern, but I don't know that it is a concern. He's just a concerned board member currently, who can't get any work done, he's a concerned taxpayer, and is afraid that if he is elected in November, that he's going to inherit his mess.
That's why my good point goes with care, I always stated it.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not making
Well,
it's just that I think if, get into these reporters and not their help to do something, he probably needs to be the spokesperson to keep them out of it. He knows that they can tell them what to say. Because I think they're going to be.
I agree with Kristen. I think he's on the board, and he has every right to ask those questions.
I'm sure he does.
In my opinion, he could, if I were him, I'd have him move the close up. Because
Fair
he
enough.
is their board, he is,
Well, you got it. I think
and he's on the board. Yeah, I think that's, gets him over that candidate issue. Very easy.
We can't write a letter from the Community Taxpayers Association and mention our board, and then actually report. We've got to
All right.
keep our sergeant at arms involved in this thing.
What do you think, Alan?
I'm ready.
I'll make a motion that Larry write a letter that is drafted and approved by the Taxpayers Board, and that be sent to all of the TV stations in Indianapolis plus SBOA, DLGF, and the Indiana State Police, white collar crime group.
I'll second. I'll second.
So, we have a motion by Virginia and a second by Dave, that a letter be crafted and approved by this board, which will come to you through email, and we'll go back and forth on email if we have to own it down, own it where we want, refine it. And then, once the entire board agrees, we'll send this letter out to, we think, 5 investigative reporters. I'm sure there are 5, but if there are 5, that's what we'll send you. And then the 3, the State Board of Accounts, Department of Local Government Finance, and the State Police.
Should we also send it to the trustee?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't. No.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Oh, no. No.
After you send it out, can you send us a copy on your email so that we can see what you have said?
Oh, yeah. Once we
Once
mail
you've
it,
mailed
and we've approved it, I see.
No, because part of what you're trying to do is alert the public.
Yeah.
How are they going to know? Because,
Well, it's an open letter, we've semi-drafted it here in open meeting, and it's recorded, so I don't think we're going to hurt anything right here now.
We will find it, I'll post it online after it's been sent out.
But we should mail it out first.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it should be
I mean,
absolutely.
absolutely.
after it's out.
We can do that.
Okay,
And then we do photocopies and put copies in mailboxes.
Oh, there you
And
go.
start reaching our township, sure.
so we've got a motion by Virginia to,
In a second,
do what we said, we got a second.
Dave seconded too.
Oh, Dave second.
Dave seconded,
I've got a question.
discussion, here we go.
In your motion, you said Larry. I think we need to specify which Larry.
Oh. Dr. Moore.
I'll flip you for it.
I had enough paperwork.
No, I'll do that. I don't have any problem doing that, but it would be important for me to do that in fairly short order, get it out to you folks. And then I need to hear back from you, once I get it out to you, as to whether it's yay or nay, or any suggestions that you have, so we can refine it, hone it down, and get it underway, and then we set the fireworks off. See what happens. So that is the motion and the second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous again.
That was fun.
See, that's what I get from being conscientious. We discussed this last meeting, said we bring it up again, here we are. But we are going to move on our agenda now, because we do want to go home sometime this evening. We're going to move to the other reports to be had, concerns, reports from the county. Anybody have anything from the county?
Yeah, I do, but I want to come down here so you don't bring
Come
your
on down.
notes.
Come on
And
down.
I did prepare a lot of notes, and I'll answer questions. More information. The council's been meeting for budgeting for the last 2 days, and there's a lot of changes that have happened. You've probably seen some of the information about plans that we're looking at for the next 4 years. This morning we took a vote that you'll read more about, because Keith Rhodes is sitting there writing a lot of stuff down. But basically it was a unanimous decision of the council to proceed with the program of about a 4-year program that will end up having a 3-story justice, I don't want to call it the Justice Center, because it's going to have more in it, but we're going to be building a, well, let's start and go backwards and I'll answer the questions. We have a problem with the courthouse. It is not ADA viable. It is a home built in 1857. It's in sorry shape. And the basic problem, if you follow this, we're going to move the courts to where the administration building is, and add on to that. We were going to put part of a building, not part of, we're going to put a building out at the fairgrounds for some of the offices, especially the recycling and the Purdue Extension. The option came about by one, actually, I think one of Brian Collier suggested it, said, why don't we make the building go higher? The architects have put that together. We're going to have a 3-story building. We're not going to build out there, and we're going to save $3 or $4 million. I could go through all the figures. I would just say that the council was very favorably received, and I guess you say the ball is being started. The can that's been kicked down the road is going to be dealt with, and we're going to see the next 4 years in a fairly effective. The judges are behind it. Commissioners are there. The money situation, I got a program on that today. Won't say it's all been worked out, but the block program basically gets rid of the old problem of low bids and change orders. What we did when we did a job, that's the job. That's their role. So we like that process. I have nervous commissioners years ago. I've never been so proud of a bunch of folks, both at council, commissioner's office, judges, counties. It's been making some really wonderful changes. Administrators, especially Josh Messner, who lives in Brown Township. But I just want you to be informed. Watch the newspapers. I can tell you a lot more about it. We will have public meetings, obviously. We're not going to just say, oh, we're going to do it. We've had public meetings before, and concerning some of the plans of today's vote. much which is on the trail and the plan to proceed to provide the changes that are long overdue. And I think it's exciting. I can't say anything. It's exciting to see positive activity towards making the county have the appearance of a county instead of something we just put on the side. I can't speak as eloquently as Brian Pye did this morning, but we made decisions today that probably will affect our grandchildren. And I think that's, when I can't remember who it was, it might have been Zelensky in Ukraine that said something about, don't put my picture on the wall, put your grandchildren's pictures on the wall, because that's what we're working for. And today we made a great move towards it. I wish I could spend the whole day just telling you how great it is, but you'll see it coming, you'll see the program coming, and very proud to see it. That's what that's, and we do have a budget already next year, and that's the budget. We just started with EMS service, ambulance service, when I left office 6 years ago now. But that program's expanded. It's very helpful. It's about saving lives. And got a good administration there. Got a highway department that we kind of cleaned up. I don't want to say cleaned up. That sounds inappropriate. But we have an effective highway department. And some great leadership there. I couldn't be any more proud to serve the county than what I am now. I wasn't. I won't say I wasn't proud, but I didn't see that we were accomplishing what we needed to, and we are now. So keep that in tune. Unlike the school, we can't spend the money. We're going to have to raise taxes. So we've done a great job of doing things without doing that. I wish in a way we are, because you're helping yourself by inviting more kids to come to Mooresville, and they are. We're going to see growth in this county, and that's going to help the program as we move down the pike. And that's all right. Growth is coming. We're going to be prepared for it. We're going to plan for it. Questions. We really
appreciate you representing county. We appreciate your service.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoy being representing this, but I'm voted by the whole county. I just haven't lived here. And I think a lot of folks and I know it sounds political, but Kenny Hale is, of course, working with us, and he's running again. So I don't want to sound like a political speech. Kenny with our parks, we've got a really cohesive. I think the best thing about the changes are that we think it through, we work, there's no personal agenda. We're all about have any questions, you just call me when you get it, I'm available all the time. So the other thing we have the governor is coming the 24th of September. We're going to have a big party out at Waverly for the bicentennial. Put
would say how much that's going to be Party City. We've been working, several people at this table have been there, so more coming. Lions Club, all kinds of things going to happen on that Saturday. But especially having the governor there for, it won't be a long time. Come on out on the 24th, celebrate Morgan County. And that'll be a fun event. The county's helped support that, but there's a lot of people working right up here on this. Our treasurer, Dave's been dogging on everything, helping us out to get ready for the Mooresville licensing, which will coincide with the whole county's going to see a total eclipse go right across the middle of it. So there's going to be more people running around here in April of 2024 than you ever thought of. But it's the second time it's been taken. So, any questions? Shout at me. See me after the meeting very briefly because I got a phone call from my grandson. I don't know what's going on, so I'll head out that way. That's part of it. Cows are ready, I think, so we're not no problems with that. Oh, and this morning, thank you. One more thing that's going on up here. I won't even tell you who suggested I be on this committee because you wouldn't believe it. But we're also getting ready to do a comprehensive plan, and they're starting to study on the consulting firm for HWC's. Met with me this morning, met with several people looking for the development of a transportation plan and just to do a comprehensive plan of this part of this county. This is where the growth is going to take place. Has been. Madison Township is probably as included as much in transportation plans and so forth as anything. So, and I wish you well with Madison Township. If the county could solve any problems, we would, but we can't. It's an animal of a different color, but we'll sure work with people that are trying to do a good job. I would say that.
Christian.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good.
Tom.
Thank you. Anything else concerning the county? How about town of Mooresville?
I'm not on the town, but since Don brought it up, I've been asked to serve on the Mooresville Comprehensive Plan, and we met yesterday. And a lot of people got a lot of good ideas. There was some good input, and HWC Engineering took it back and are going to put together some of our ideas and what they think about it, and then we'll meet again. And so I'm tickled to death to be on that committee.
I am tickled to know you're there.
Thank you.
I had no idea who was there, but Matt Dalton was following me in front of Rosemary. And he was there this morning, but I'm sure we're going to do this.
Yesterday.
Yes,
Yes.
I couldn't make it yesterday, probably. After today, or on that thing again.
That's the only thing I got from having the town.
Anybody else regarding the town? City of Martinsville. Buildings. Monrovia. Do you have something?
I'm sorry?
Do you have something?
No, I'm just scratching my face.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Scratching
looking
my
at
head
this.
sometimes, and this time it was the face. You want to know about Monrovia?
Anything at all in the county, we address the whole county.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in Monrovia right now. In fact, the county's working with the RDC out there and redevelopment. We've been working with Hendricks. I meet regularly with the Hendricks County folks on the West Point at their 39 and 70. That is going to be that's part of the growth. It's just happening everywhere. You're going to see it west. You're going to see it up like east side over there, where Waverly area. I don't think you're recognized. Going back 15 years, you know, I moved here in Mooresville in 1950, and it didn't change a lot by the time I'd say by 19. Now, people come back that have been gone for 20 years don't recognize Mooresville. I didn't recognize very many people in the back on the parade. I'm going down there and I think we're all the people I knew. course, are outliving some of them, so that's a problem. But the new ones and former students, that always helps. But bottom line is, you're going to see we've been a kind of a slow grower, which is not a bad thing, but that's changing very much, very fast. Schools better be ready. They are.
I think they're working on it. I think countywide they're working on it. I think countywide they're anticipating working on it.
Yep. Good place to be if you want to be seeing things move.
Okay, moving on to township reports now. I'm going to exclude Madison Township. We had a fairly decent discussion on that.
I do have something to do that involves all townships.
Okay, good.
I was doing some research today, and the reason for my research was that Madison Township, mentioning Madison Township, and it's not about Madison Township. Townships are allowed to take out an emergency loan. And I became aware of this because back in 2002, Madison Township's budget was $400,000, but by 2009, they had a $4 million budget. It had gone up much faster than what you would think would be possible. They did it because of emergency loans. And in 2009, they had with their $4 million budget, they took out a $2 million loan and spent that too. The emergency loans, I was under the impression, was limited to 50% of the unspent draw against their budget. That used to be true. I found out that limit has been up to 80%.
Let's hope the trustee doesn't watch that YouTube presentation. He is.
80%. And if the township can't pay back their loan by the end of the year, then what happens is that automatically becomes added. The 80% is what is the levy will be increased by 80% next year. 80% increase to the taxes as opposed to a 3.75.
Can't do it, you don't have a board approval.
Okay, that's my comment.
That is, it's a township. Yeah, it's a township comment. Any other comments, townships?
Well, Brown Township, on which I said cannot compete with Madison Township. We've had one meeting this year, and that was in January, to appoint our different officers. But we're having a meeting next week to talk about our budget. So, our budget for next year. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. But we haven't had any meetings. I think we should have had some meetings, but when I talked to the president of the board, he was really too busy. So, and maybe I shouldn't say that this is being recorded, but president of the board takes care of the IT business for the township, and the other board member is an employee of his. So there you go. That's why I didn't run again for Brown Township. So anyway, there'll be a meeting next week on the budget. It's not a workshop, it'll just be a regular meeting.
That's my report. Anything else, townships? Go ahead.
I don't know if this is proper place, but 40 years ago in November, all official, trustee of Brown Township, charged Black Star Ambulance, 24th of September. They're having a reunion at the Old Town Park for the original people that started that ambulance service. We When's that gonna be, Rick?
24th of September from 11 o'clock until
That's the same day as the 24th of September?
Yeah,
What time?
start at 11 until everybody goes home. Last year it was about 6 o'clock before they decided to quit talking.
Why don't you run over to Bicentennial, get some cake and ice cream, and then head back to the park?
Have you looked at my belly?
Where's the location again?
I'm sorry,
What's the location?
the Old Town Park.
Okay.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm sorry, I can't be there.
Yeah, that is.
I wasn't there to start with, but I.
You got double opportunities that day, big opportunities that day. Anything else? No. Townships, how about a school board report? Maybe can you discuss the,
I'll come down, don't put pressure on me to come down. By the way, thank you for the kind comments, appreciate that. We got a good start. A lot of school districts struggled with filling positions, and we were able to start with 100% capacity. We are up a little bit right now in enrollment, but that always fluctuates as the season goes along. But we are receiving transfer students in at a better rate than Senator Grove and Plainfield, which is pretty remarkable. Since we were talking about budgeting, Dr. Allen just wrapped up the budget, and we'll be sending the state our budget, same tax rate of 17874, and that has been the same rate. I think this is the 14th year now, so we're living within our budget. Projects are being completed, as you hear, and some of our new projects, we go through a punch list coming up this end of this week, and they're completed as well. So shorter season now. The old dogs in here like me, we used to have 3 months to get summer projects. Now we only have 2 months, and so it rushes us a little bit, but we're doing a really good job. I've got to hand it to our teachers and our support staff. Remarkable start to the school this year. Pretty proud of everybody. So, thank you.
thank you.
Got any sub jobs?
Yeah, always a subject.
I know, I think I'm gonna do this.
Always.
Enjoy it.
And being the public school system, we really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah.
That really helps us out. So, anything else on any of the old business of the board members? Twice. New business. We have to have a meeting in November. It's part of our quarterly regular meetings. I think if you look at your calendar, maybe somewhere around November 22nd would be the day. Is that right? It's like a good time for our next quarterly meeting. 2 days before Thanksgiving, which we always do anyway,
Yeah, that's true.
because none of us get to go anywhere.
Is that today? 22nd?
I believe it's the 22nd. It should be a Tuesday. Is that November 22nd, Tuesday? That will be the day. Now, I will be gone the 17th through the 21st, but I will be back at that meeting on Tuesday.
Okay.
And that'll set that date, November 22nd. And any other items from the board before we adjourn?
I just want to mention that our insurance is due November 25th, and I don't know if you want to go ahead and give permission to renew that now, or wait 3 days from our next meeting.
I think the insurance is key
Oh, yeah.
because, for one thing, we provide to the school corporation show that we're responsible enough to have insurance and be here. We can't participate in the old settlers and all that other stuff without insurance.
So go ahead and take care of it then.
Have a motion, Greg, to renew our insurance now,
As soon as possible.
as soon as possible. We have a second from Larry. Greg, motion, second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Please, renew our insurance.
Thank you.
Can you take care of that?
I will.
Yes, we thank you for that. Any other items from the board? Anybody have an idea about adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Dave seconds. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Sorry.